On this stream, we talk about meta a lot. We talk about the DPS rankings and everything else and what it means and all that. You know, playing the meta doesn't matter. It really doesn't. Unless you're playing the highest end, dungeon pushing, big dick, I'm going to raid at the top end content. And even then, player skill can offset some things. But for most average Andys out there, for most Gregs from accountings, Bobs from HRs, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. She just be playing what's fun to you. I got a list here of the 5 best off-meta class specs that are must-plays right now in 11.1.5. Let's see what Delerad Gaming has to say.
Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dal. Every single season in World of Warcraft brings in a brand new meta of classes, which is a list of classes that are part of some of the strongest options available.
Yeah, more Euro reactions.
The best of the best kits for dungeons, raiding, or PvP. And every single season, that meta tends to change regularly. But over seasons and expansions, we notice that certain classes do show up a lot more often within the flavor of the month category.
If I had to pick a class that will show up regardless of meta, no matter what the meta is, it's Paladin. Paladin will always be around. It's like they are the Knights of the Silver Hand. They will never disassemble. They will always be there. They are the most loyal people to their class. You will always find Paladins in this game, no matter what.
More than others, which are kind of left by the wayside.
It's true, Kate.
However, Season 2 content of the War Within really flipped the meta on its head, with no augmentation being involved as part of the overall top-end performing content, but also massive class buffs all across the board, very strong tier sets for the season, brings in so much variety within this season specifically. Whether you look at your raid or go for M+ content, it is literally one of the best seasons when it comes to the class variety and just about everybody having like a really viable and a playable option, especially if you're looking to push beyond your limits. And with so many opportunities right now to catch up some brand new characters and try a bunch of different playstyles with a huge leveling buff that is available in Season 2 11.1.5, I thought it'd be a good idea to spotlight some of those black sheep of the community that are usually caught in that off-meta list, that are usually not really viable, except for this season. Classes that are historically not that strong, but are actually performing incredibly well.
Yeah, he's referring to all the leveling boosts that are happening right now. There's a ton of leveling ways to level up quickly. We got the whole what is Blizzard calling it? The speed boost or whatever it is, the hyper fast. I don't know what the hell they're calling this whole new thing. I forgot, but it's basically hyper fast leveling. Item levels are going up. Everything, loot is going up. It's all in preparation, essentially, for what looks like it's going to be prepping everybody for the final season of the expansion closeout of the War Within and heading into Midnight. Turbo Boost event. Yes, that's what it's called.
Now in Season 2. In case you're looking for some fun variety of different alts to pick up and test out some of the playstyles that are usually not really all that well represented. But as always, if you guys want to see more regular updates for War Within, patch 11.1.5, or even future updates, be sure to follow the channel and subscribe. But otherwise, let's dive right in. So one of the easiest classes to put on this list will be the Feral Druid. Historically, Ferals specifically haven't been amazing for PvE content. They haven't necessarily been like downright bad and awful, but they have a history of being the black sheep of most melee DPS.
Well, they also have a history of being furries. I mean, there's that too, right? Like everybody knows, everyone who plays Feral Druid, little bit of a kinky furry person, okay? Or they're a cat girl in real life, like they're, they just love cats. So there's there's that aspect of it. But yeah, Feral Druid always looked like a fun class to play. Look, if you play, or a fun spec, I should say, if you play Druid in general, you've always got a little bit of different flavors. Feral did have its time where it was almost meta in this expansion, but Blizzard always buffs Feral and then drops them back down for some reason. They don't like them. Maybe they don't want a furry in the meta. I don't know what it is.
For a very long time, no matter the expansion, no
Only
matter the
Sam
season,
thinks
while
this.
we do have pockets where they sometimes shine,
It's
they're
not
generally
true.
not seen as good by
I have
large
evidence.
amounts of player community. They don't have like, things like Cloak of Shadows and immunities like that of a rogue. They don't really have some mass giga AoE like what a Windwalker can bring. They also can just play Boomkit instead of Feral because that is just literally safer. You have relatively similar kit, especially with raid compositions, but Ferals right now are actually looking very strong. They in particular have a really good season tier set. The season 2 set with the bleed damage, bite damage, and primal rat damage that stacks over time, as well as that apex predator consumption damage that does big winter damage and also increases the damage of periodic
Yeah, I mean, I literally just Googled average Feral player, and these are the images that came up. So, I mean, even the internet knows this, and everyone knows the internet tells the truth. So yeah, I mean, this is what usually a Feral player is going to look like, and there ain't nothing wrong with this. I'm just saying that's why, you know, a lot of people typically don't play Feral Druid.
The target is so
if they don't own
right
a cat
now,
fursuit
and
in
I'm a
real life.
huge fan of it. It plays really well into the Feral bleed and bite playstyle, offering additional oomph in damage, but also greatly powering up your bleeds. It is a really, I feel like, undersold option by many players that do honestly miss out on just how good that thing is. And right now with the current playstyle, especially with Mythic Plus or even raids, I would say the bleeds and bites playstyle is now
I don't know what you're talking about, Cadence.
Where everything feels pretty satisfying. The raw dot damage can feel really good. The bites and the procs that you get out of it can be very fast paced, and it also have some of the best utility for 5-man content, mostly because they're a druid, right? So Guardian, Boomkin, Feral, Resto all bring that, but Feral ends up bringing quite a bit of decent damage in Mythic Plus specifically, but that 5-man disruption abilities from Typhoon versus Vortex. You got yourself Stampeding Roar. That could also be really strong. Dispels defenses with the bear form with Ursun's Vigor. They got Well-Honed Instincts, AoE disruptions, a bit of a healer utility, and even some off healing, which is now getting.
He is right about one thing. If you enjoy kind of playing the game solo, Feral's got a lot of survivability in it, right? You can constantly switch back to bear form. You can obviously heal yourself, stuff like that. So yeah, like in terms of just like playing this game casually, Feral Druid is a pretty good spec to pick up. It's fun. You can stealth around, avoid things. You can heal yourself. So yeah, there's a lot of utility involved in Feral Druid and Druid in general.
A little bit less common since they kind of started to remove things little by little. They have quite a decent bit of that 5-man utility that many players are looking for.
Druid's in a good spot.
I feel like this is the best that Feral has felt in quite a bit of a while, especially for this current season's content, and definitely worth jumping into if you've ever had any interest in playing Feral or Druid in general at all within the War Within expansion. Now, another spec that really gets to shine right now, get it? Shine, because Bellador is all shining right now, is the Devastation Evoker. Besides the scringe opener here, Devas actually feels really good. What are the ways that...
Wait a minute, isn't Devastation Evoker part of the meta now? Aren't they becoming meta? Devastation Evoker right now is like the #1 pumper in the game, so I don't know if this list was made before the recent changes. Scaly Gag, yeah, I mean maybe it's not. Maybe it's
cause
not.
Devs to.
I know Mage is. We got what is it? Frost Mage / Fire Mage. What else is meta right now? Obvious. Dev off meta, huh? Yeah, Dev has been. Yeah, it's what I thought. Devastation is part, not a meta, but strong DPS. Okay, fair. We could say that.
Actually, kind of get surged forward is the fact that Augmentation is no longer the meta pick. You no longer really play it anywhere within raids or dungeons, and this gives some breathing room for the other two specs to shine. Preservation hasn't quite picked up as much popularity, but Devastation has definitely improved. And what's really cool about Devastation is because Dev is split between these two elements of combat, the blue magic and the red magic of the two different dragonflies that get fused together. For the longest time, players kind of have leaned more into that blue damage, I guess together with Scale Commander and the Massive Cleavage, who would give it disintegrates and really sharp bursting damage with Eternity Surges, but this time around it looks like the winds have shifted into the red. And the Flame Shaper helps kind of emphasize that red damage and rat magic in so many cool ways that really gives like a unique thematic component to it, which I am a personally big fan of. Like whenever I play Rogue, I like, having a poison bleed or a bleed build as assassination, and I love the thematics between those two builds and the focus of damage that you can get.
The thing about playing Evoker right now is your other specs are completely useless. You're not going to play Augmentation. That has been deemed the unplayable spec of WoW. So yeah, I mean, you're going to play Devastation Evoker. And it looks fun right now. It's pumping huge numbers. It is. It's the highest right now. We were looking at the DPS charts for 95th percentile rating right now, and Devastation came out as #1. So you're going to put out big numbers if you learn the rotation.
And being able to create thematic builds, I've just always enjoyed that with classes generally. But when it comes to Flame Shaper, what's really cool about it is the Engulfability, which has the opportunity to deal some really big, spiky AoE damage and create such awesome bursty combos with it that is just super satisfying. Devastation technically does have crit synergy for big burst damage of Spellweaver's dominance, and that is something that a lot of players miss out on. They're kind of like Elish Shamans with that same mindset. They have crit damage amplification as part of a base identity. So when you have an ability that hits as hard as Engulf, that can deal additional damage per dot effect, being able to line up huge set of dots and then landing that fatty crit, oh, it doesn't feel satisfying to just perform all overall. And since the spec is so so bursty, it just ends up fitting well into the Devastation playstyle. Plus, you also get to go into cool thematic components like being able to create firestorms, which are like their versions of Blizzard, but instead of being blue, they're red, which a lot of tanks still run out of, thinking it's an enemy mechanic. Hopefully that will change in the future, or maybe they can just change the color of firestorm to be like blue for other players, but red for the evoker, so like nobody runs out of it just instinctively. Besides this, Dev also feels really good in dungeon content and even in raid content. The utility of this class between the rescue and the shields it can provide, the Zephyr defensive that can also be really good,
for sure.
The power that comes with Oppressive Roar, especially when you pair them together with Vege's Demon Hunters, who are so AoE CC heavy. It's really cool because the spec is in a great spot to create some of those synergies that can work hand in hand with other classes, and it definitely brings a little bit more of this unique play to it. Still, it has this whole like flying, using hover ability to deal damage from a distance, but you have a shorter range, so not everybody's gonna enjoy.
They're extremely mobile, so I mean, like, that just goes with Evoker in general, not just Devastation, but they can move around a lot. They sit in that mid-range. Right now, I would say, like, the game is favoring range DPS for the most part. I feel like range is the thing right now. We see mages as part of the meta. We see Boomkin part of the meta. And even in general, the top DPS right now, looking at them all, they're almost all ranged. I don't know... maybe is one of the rogue specs sitting up there. I know Hunter's up there. So like most of them are ranged. You got mages, you got warlocks, you got devastation evokers, you got as I was mentioning boomkins. Like they're all ranged. So right now sitting in the range is pretty good for dodging things, doing mechanics. Yeah, obviously you're mid-range with devastation, but you're so mobile. You could just move out of everything. Like you really shouldn't get hit by any mechanics as a devastation evoker.
Enjoy Devastation, but if you've ever had interest in playing Dev Evoker at any point in the expansion, or if you just like big burst damage, I think that right now...
Jesus Christ. I gotta pause blurps. Jesus. Okay.
Now, Devastation is in the best spot it's been in a very long time, and now would be the best time for them to really shine if you're looking to play a dragon in War Within. Now, another spec that's gotten a hell of a lot better recently is the Arcane Mage. It turns out if you build this class by like 8% one week, 4% another week, and then juice up a bunch of their talents, all of a sudden the spec starts to perform better.
Who was just saying they're playing Arcane Mage and having fun? Cody Motti just said that in chat. He's like, I'm playing Arcane Mage. The crazy thing is right now Fire and Frost are fighting it out to be meta. So if you're playing Arcane, you must really love Arcane because it's the one of the three specs that's the lowest right now. But he's saying it's fun. So is, I guess, Cody can say the same thing. Yeah, he's saying it's fun too in chat. So yeah, try Arcane if you're enjoying.
Arcane Mage is not always a meta choice, however. It has had pockets of like favorability. Commonly and historically, mages definitely are a popular pick. But if you break it down between Arcane, Fire, and Frost, so far we have seen Frost and Fire seen the most amount of time in the spotlight throughout expansions and throughout seasons until now. And in 11.1.5, it is in a great spot. Yeah, again, like I said, if you buff it up enough, all your abilities just start hitting harder and harder and harder until your barrages are critting things for 12 million minimum. So it is definitely a very fun spec that has a lot of cleave and a lot of just...
Was that Arcane Barrage that was hitting that hard? Damn, it is Arcane Barrage. Holy man. It blasted.
Very
Arcane
fun spec
Missiles
that has
too.
a lot of cleave and a lot of just raw damage. It is a great funnel spec, however, though. While it can hit multiple targets, it also has fantastic priority damage, which is something a lot of players in Dungeons are looking for. And Arcane is excellent at doing that without having to sacrifice AoE damage. You just get strong single target damage to just pile drive that mob, but everything around it will also continue to melt around as well. So they're basically like a Fire Mage or like a Frost Mage, really. They're more alike than ever before, and they're just in a really good spot right now for that huge effective damage while still being able to do a lot of cleaving. And while historically Arcane Mages have generally been harder to play than the other two, I would argue that right now War Within the Spellslinger variation of
I feel like, I mean, maybe Spellslinger is hyper mobile. I haven't played Arcane Mage in a Spellslinger format or anything like that, but I know that Arcane was always the hardest to play of the three, at least to me, because it was the least mobile, and then the mana management that came with it was intense. That's basically the interplay of Arcane Mage, is trying to manage your mana. But you used to have to really stay still with Arcane to get your casts off. You sit in your rune and all that shit. So that inability to be mobile used to make the spec much harder to play than the other two. Whereas Fire, you're just fucking running around throwing pyroblasts everywhere. And same with Frost, it's hyper mobile. The difficulty is you got to aim your camera at whatever you're hitting and positioning yourself so you don't pull extra mobs. Oh, okay. Yeah, but it's not a steep learning curve. Okay.
Arcane, which is the stronger and the more popular choice right now. While not everyone's cup of tea, it is definitely really easy. It's very passive and it's very proc-based, mostly focusing on barraging multiple targets as soon as you hit 4 charges of arcane charges. When hitting more than one target, there's a little bit of cooldown and buff tracking that you gotta do as arcane, which is going to be like that as part of the class identity.
I mean, just watching this play right here, it doesn't look like he's having any mana issues.
This variation of Arcane, I would say, is one of the easier ones to get into. So if you've always been intimidated by the spec, I think now would be the best time to give it a solid shot. Another spec I think is worth checking out is Marksmanship Hunter. While Hunters generally, as a class, perform fairly, I'd say, above average when it comes to the
Wait, is Hunter not part of the meta in Marksmanship? Aren't they one of the better DPS? Am I tripping? I could have sworn they were.
Polarity between season to season. It feels like Hunters just are everywhere, though they're never like literally the best or ranked one in everything. Or if they ever are, Blizzard tends to nerf them.
Here it is right here. Yeah, Marksmanship Hunter actually finished second right now on the charts. But I guess the Marksmanship is not the meta. What am I tripping? Hold on. I know that Frost or Fire Mage. I know that Boomkin Druid. Who else was part of the meta? Who was the third one? Was it Destro Warlock? Top Hunter spec right now for Raid and Mythic Plus at the moment. Yeah, I know Marksmanship is. So I guess they're not part of the meta though.
Pretty quickly. There's been some moments where Beastmaster or Marksmanship does like ludicrous amounts of damage, and Blizzard is really
Unholy DK was the third DPS one. Okay, so yeah, it was Frost or Fire. It was Frost or Fire Mage, Boomkin Druid. Unholy DK, yeah, I'm remembering now. And then you got your, Demon Hunter fucking tank, Vengeance tank, whatever.
The Nerf Hunter over every other class is what I noticed. I'm not saying the Hunter is like the most aggrieved class, but I have noticed there's a pattern for sure.
Yeah, they do change every
Anyway, with Marksmanship, it is not always a class that is at the top of the ladder. Sometimes it's Beast Mastery, rarely Survival, but we have some pockets of it, and sometimes it's Marksmanship, but it's never all 3 specs at the very, very top. So I think it's worth it to put Marksmanship in this list, because it's not always meta, and I'd say it's more often not meta than it is meta. Though the rework that they've gotten for 11.1 has been awesome. I've really got to dive in and really sink my teeth into the playstyle recently, and I actually quite enjoyed. Now, talking to hunters that played back in Legion, which is what some people believe is the peak of Marksmanship Hunter design, this isn't quite as good as Legion, but it's pretty good. And overall, the playstyle feels really good, whether you're looking for Mythic Plus content or even raid content.
Yeah, and if you tried Marksmanship Hunter early in the expansion, you might want to try it again. Blizzard did do a couple changes to it most recently in some hot fixes and the recent class tuning changes. Marksmanship got a lot of love, so yeah, it's playing pretty good right now.
Sentinel,
and you saw
the DPS is passive, great. Or my favorite, Dark Ranger, which is a little bit more active with the Black Arrow ability. Huge fan of the design, the look of the ability, the sound, and everything about it. And the best part is, they actually get a lot more customization than some of the other classes out there when it comes to the class challenge specifically. They're actually pretty robust. This rework of 11.1 allows them to have a lot more versatility in dungeons in particular, letting them really hone in the playstyle on other pure AoE damage.
YouTube, come by Sam's stream sometime. He makes really good content, and he also makes its clap from the back too. I don't know about that. I don't know if I clap cheeks on stream, but thank you, Bernie. Thank you for the endorsement. I appreciate that.
Or better,
and thank you for the 100 bits.
Or potentially even small cleave situations, like swapping in for some amazing 2-target cleave, which can be really high-key good in very, very certain pieces of content. So it really allows them to specialize per fight, whether it's a raid encounter or per dungeon, whatever they may need, whether you go for mass AoE pools like Cinderbrew or some of the more smaller honed-in pools like Theater of Pain, just because you kind of have that limitation because of the way the dungeon is structured. Marksmanship is able to adapt to all of those playstyles while retaining the utility that comes with playing a hunter. The playstyle and the gameplay loop of it all feels really good, and particularly I'm a huge fan of the precise shots. Actually feels good to press. I hated how previously all those precise shot procs were being cannibalized because you're getting so many aim shot procs back to back, and they were just overwriting precise shots all the way through. But now there's a little bit more focus for you to actually use all your basic class abilities.
One common theme here that I'm seeing with all the classes he's suggesting is hypermobile again. Like look at Marksmanship Hunter. You're just flying around, shooting everywhere. You can easily dodge things, avoid. It's a probably fun spec to play right now. Good DPS. DPS, and easy to survive things.
Sort of skipping them out completely.
Also, you get Turtle Shell.
Procs,
That's another one.
It feels a lot more comprehensive as
Lust.
a spec, which I can definitely appreciate.
You know, your utility for raid is great, and for groups.
Now, the final class spec I really wanted to highlight was a healer, and I was trying to figure out which healer I was really enjoying this season. Obviously, everybody in the mother is enjoying Disc Priest Oracle,
yeah.
Which even after
Discipline Priest is the meta healer right now.
The nerfs continues to be a very dominant and one of the best options out there. But I have to say, the only other healer I'm enjoying this season, at least for the time being, is a Holy Paladin. Holy Paladin, like every other healer, kind of rotate when it comes to the overall meta. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're not, but the healers tend to rotate pretty consistently. Either way, the last time Paladin were really popular as a healer was about expansion of Shadowlands, and I think they had one good season of Dragonflight, but all of it was definitely pretty short-lived, which I think is enough to put them on this list. And what I think is cool...
Well, one thing I will say is I like bringing Holy Paladins to different things is because their survivability too. Right, they got ability to. They're a plate wearer. They got the ability to survive a lot of things. Quick pump, off heals, quick heals on the party. They're a good class to bring. So even when they're not meta, I don't mind bringing a Holy Paladin.
But Holy Paladin is actually the only
Blood
other
DK
healer
didn't make the. Well, this is for like This is like for people who are coming to the game and they want to play an off meta spec. Okay, Blood DK is extremely hard, high skill. Takes big balls to play. That's why I play it. All right, that's why I enjoy the challenge of playing a Blood DK. Also, the balls common. I fit into that category too. So yeah, Blood DK of course is not going to be on this list.
Break into
Can't tell people to play Blood DK.
For Mythic Plus
They'll
content
hate the game.
Outside
it's
of an Oracle disc. The Mythic Plus meta is very competitive, and only Disc Priest so far has been able to float above everybody else, but Holy Paladin is right on their heels, and hopefully we'll see him breaking into some of the more high-end content as well. The current build for Holy Paladin has recently been buffed up quite a decent bit, but the current setup that they have right now is really effective at spot healing, which is kind of the bread and butter of the Holy Paladin playstyle. If your burst healing to singular targets is high, that's where Holy Paladin feels at its best. And I would say Holy Paladin spot healing right now feels really good. Also, Holy Paladin is at its worst when it's bogged down by way too many cooldowns. We saw how they felt like in Shadowlands and felt like they're healing, and all those cooldowns felt like they were meaningless. Right now, Holy Paladin doesn't have too many cooldowns to work with, but every single one of them is highly impactful. So it's like the inverse of the worst version of Paladin that I've got to play recently. Their damage is also quite nice. It definitely isn't the highest, but it's pretty up there. Plus, Paladin in general has a huge variety of talents that can help out a 5-man content dungeon group. A variety of different blessings, as well as buffs, as well as excellent mob control with an AoE blind, a stun, as well as an interrupt, as well as some of the best defenses in the game.
Hold on.
So there's definitely a lot good.
Pella, you could play Blood DK with one hand jerkin and the other one. You know, yeah, I could play a Vengeance Demon Hunter with just my butthole spread across my screen. I'm not even touching my keyboard. Just press my butthole against my screen, against my monitor. I could play full on Vengeance Demon Hunter, easy. You don't even need hands. You don't need any. You don't need a keyboard. You just let your character run it for free. It'd be no problem. We've already done this debate, okay? I asked AI, and when I fucking posted the last video about hardest tanks to play, like most of the chat, most of the comments in the YouTube chat agreed with me. Blood DK is far harder than Vengeance Demon Hunter, okay? We're not gonna get this fucking shit again. Jesus Christ.
It can be said about Holy Paladin, and currently I do enjoy them. Right now, Disc Priest is still going to be the preferred and the dominant choice, but Holy Paladin is at least staying on their heels and trying to push some of the more difficult PvE content, which is definitely exciting to see. But with that being said, as always, I do want to thank all of you guys so much for watching, and I do hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you did enjoy it or found it informative, go ahead and give it a like. I would very much appreciate it. Definitely give these classes a go, because in the near future, they could potentially be brought back down out of the meta, so you might as well enjoy them while they last. Join our Discord community to keep up with all the regular class patch notes in case that ever happens. Also, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and as always, I'll see all of you guys in the next one.
Yeah, nice. Good list here from Delerad. I enjoyed watching this. Again, you don't have to play the meta. Meta is just out there kind of see, where's everyone standing, what's the best, you know, what's really pumping hard, what's doing good. But at the end of the day, player skill matters way more than the meta. So these classes are good ones to try. I agree with this list. I don't agree with people in chat saying Vengeance Demon Hunter is hard to play. Good point, Swirly. Literally, Demon Hunters wear blindfolds, so they are proof positive that you don't even need eyes to play a fucking Demon Hunter. But there you go. Nice list from Delerad.